We use slip stitches in socks, in sock heels for reinforcement, and there are two commonly used patterns. There's the heel stitch and the eye of partridge, and both of them alternate slip stitches. You can see it here in the heel stitch swatch. You've got these larger, these pronounced columns. Those are columns of slip stitches, so you alternate slip, knit on the right side. On the wrong side, you just purl back. Eye of partridge alternates that. So on one, it's slip, knit. On the following right side row, it's knit, slip. So you get sort of a checkerboard pattern. I've used it here. It has two purposes. It provides reinforcement because those floats at the back thicken it up, so it's comfy and it's reinforced. I've used it here too to break up this otherwise fairly outrageous, I love it, but it's outrageous hand-dyed yarn. And so what I've got here, I've used eye of partridge, and it reinforces the heel flap, and it just changes how the colors break. And you don't just have to use it on the heel flap. Here, I'm flopping my sock around. The heel turn that I prefer, this square or this band heel, allows me to flow the reinforcement down into the underside of the heel, which is important for me because that's a stress point based on how I walk and how I wear my socks. So you can actually use that slip stitch reinforcement where you need it, possibly on the ball of the foot, if you blow through the toes of your socks as well, so that's an opportunity. So these are quite actually powerful stitch patterns. You can also use slip stitches to create these fantastic two-color effects. You see it in my sock here, and it's also in two patterns in this issue. There's Carreau and there's isochronal arc. It's a sort of cheats stranded color work, if you will, because you get two color effects, but you only use one at a time. Here I'm using a variegated yarn and a solid. Love these two together. But I only work the stitches of one color. I have an edge here. Okay, I'm working with my variegated yarn, so all I do is I just slip the solid stitches. I work the two variegated stitches, slip the solids, and I'm slipping purlwise to preserve the stitch orientation, work the two variegated stitches, and slip the solid. So I go all the way across like that. The last stitch, the selvage here, I will work in whatever color I'm working with just to keep the yarns anchored at the end. On the wrong side, I come back. Again, I've only got the variegated yarn available to me, so that's the one I work with. I'm going to knit my selvage, knit my selvage, and I'm bring the yarn to the front, to the wrong side, so those floats are at the wrong side. And then I'm again slipping the solid and purling the variegated. The Carreau pattern in the issue actually has you work these in garter stitch. So you're knitting, which creates a really nice effect. So just a different way of working these stitches, but it's the same kind of thing. This technique is also known as mosaic knitting, if you've encountered that term. You slip, that's the thing you do have to pay attention to on the wrong side. I was just about to work the wrong stitch there. You slip the solid colors and I purl the variegated. I'm working the variegated. Where you get more complex patterns, you will be sometimes working with the opposite color. I love this horizontal, this vertical stripe pattern because what you get is it's super simple to work. And you just get these really clever effects. And again, you're using the power of slip stitches to break up an otherwise busy colorway. In the other pattern in the issue, it uses some lace effects in addition to the slip stitches to get a really beautiful fabric. So slip stitches, very useful, lots of different ways. So here you can see how I've used slip stitches to just break up and change the coloring effect of a busy variegated yarn. I love the coloring on this, but it might be a bit too much all over, or just might not be the effect you're looking for. So what I've done is I've slipped every third stitch over 2 rows, and what that does is that just breaks up the color and changes where the colors lie. So it can be a nice way of making things different in a variegated yarn. Again, what I did is I worked 2 rows where I'm slipping the 3rd stitch, and then on the 3rd row I work the stitch, and it's a very straightforward stitch pattern and it gives a really cool effect. I did exactly the same thing here with a different yarn. This yarn is quite fixed stripes, and what I've done is I've harnessed that to create vertical stripes against the horizontal stripes. And so the slipping the stitch pulls up a column of color against the other stripes. I think this is a really terrific effect, and it's a simple change you can apply to all sorts of patterns. Would look good in a scarf.